Welcome to the Call Your Shot podcast, your weekly sports recap podcast where we break down the hottest headlines, dissect the latest injuries, and serve up our own hard-hitting analysis of the past week in sports. But that's not all. We're not just here to talk about the past, we're here to predict the future as well. On the Call Your Shot podcast, we boldly predict the outcomes of the upcoming week's games.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening. This is the Call Your Shot podcast with your hosts, Alex Harris and Drew Moore. Today's episode, we're going to get into the NFL season over the past couple weeks, get into our power rankings, actually, so the top 5 teams we currently have in the NFL, finishing out with our Call Your Shot segments, and then we're going to hop right into the NBA. So getting started in the NFL, Drew, were there any major key games over the past 2 weeks that you really wanted to get into, or do you want to get straight into the power rankings?
I mean, I'll address the elephant in the room. Joshua Dobbs went down and dominated my Saints. And, you know, it's tough being a Saints fan going against Minnesota. I should have known better. We never play good against Minnesota. And,
this is true.
And it's one of those things, too, where Josh Dobbs is still, like,
he's doing this to everybody,
statistically speaking, I'm just saying, the stats say that he is not a good quarterback. But what I see out there is Astro Boy out here slinging the ball left and right, looking like Joe Montana, mixed with, like, you know, Steve Young, and I don't even know. But this is ridiculous, honestly. I'm at a loss for words. Jameis tried his best to come back, but then he also did his best Jameis as well, where he.
So y'all thought he was the answer for a while, and then
I did. I
definitely did Jameis things.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's tough because I want to continue trying to fade this team, but I'm just gonna stay away from their games from here for a little bit until I find another opportunity to bet against them. This week would be a good opportunity, but I'm scared. I don't know what's gonna happen with that team.
And Joshua Dobbs doing all of this without a wide receiver one. When he was in, Arizona, Marquise Brown was his best receiver, and now he's been playing for the Vikings without even Justin Jefferson, who should be coming back this week. So, I mean, hey, the sky's the limit.
I think the craziest thing too is the fact that the Jets had an opportunity to get this guy. There are actually all 31 other teams that didn't have Arizona, they didn't have Josh Dobbs, had an opportunity to get Josh Dobbs, but they all elected, nah, we're good. We're going to go with who we got. We trust our guy, Zach Wilson, to go out there and be a gunslinger, throw the ball around. We trust Deshaun Watson. Well, we kind of have to with that case scenario. But, I mean, even as a backup quarterback, you want DTR as your backup quarterback? Like, I
don't know what's going on.
Some of these teams.
Like, I understand some of the teams, but, like, the Jets specifically, Robert Saleh is, like, firm pressed on keeping Zach Wilson as their starting quarterback over the past 2 weeks. I think they had, like, one offensive touchdown, which is that, like, dump off to Breece Hall. And he's was getting interviewed after the loss that they had this last week. He's like, I don't know. I actually think Zach Wilson's been playing pretty good. I'm like, bro, like, we're just going to keep lying to ourselves or what?
I think it's been, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's been, like, 40 or 50 quarters since they've scored a touchdown that has come off of a play that wasn't off on, like, a one-play drive. Because all the touchdowns that they've had have been on
slant to
one-play drives.
Wilson, 60 yards, or Breece Hall,
Mm-hmm.
True.
And so it's, I think there's some, let me get my tinfoil hat on over here. There's some upper management's got to be pulling some strings right here, because Zach Wilson's uncle or grandpa or somebody in his family owns JetBlue, right? And so they obviously have a bunch of pull in what goes on
conspiracy
around
theories there.
Now. I'm just saying.
Okay.
And there ain't no way that Robert Saleh can look people in the eye and with a straight face say that he is the best quarterback that gives us the opportunity to win. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting on my conspiracy hat. All right. And I'm saying that somebody's pulling the strings behind the curtains because there ain't no way that Zach Wilson should be an NFL quarterback in this day and age. Point blank, period.
legit. So I don't know what they're doing. The Vikings did it for Joshua Dobbs, got him. The Rams even signed Carson Wentz after Matthew Stafford's been having his injuries and things like that. So, and they're so I don't know what the Jets are doing, man. I really don't. And then it seemed like it was working because they went on a little win streak and all that kind of stuff. And then, they were like 3-3. And you're like, oh my goodness, Robert Saleh is a genius. And
Mm-hmm.
now they cannot move the ball for anything. So it's not looking great. But people are saying Aaron Rodgers is supposed to, get back
Dude,
out there pretty soon. We're gonna keep
if
on
this
for
man
hope.
if if this man actually goes out there and plays in December, it's going to be the worst decision of his career. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because that could actually end his career if he goes out, does that, re-ruptures his Achilles. Um, and I don't care what he's saying. Like, oh, I'm, gonna work on advancing my program. If you have a good patient and a good doctor, it's a perfect combo. Okay, good doctor, sure. Surgery successful, great. That's step number one, step number two, right there. Um, and then step number three, good patient. Well, if you consider yourself to be a good patient, then you'd be following the typical protocol of what the doctor wants you to do, not following your own protocol where you're trying to get back within, what is it, like 4 months of the injury, as opposed to when most people get back at the earliest is 6 months. And that's return to play or return to participation, not return to performance. So, and there's a huge difference between the two in terms of the quality of the tissue and the player's ability to actually, well, perform. And I don't care who you are, unless you're God, you cannot speed up the
A
healing
bad
process
man.
of the body. Like the body's going to heal at whatever pace it's going to heal at. You can't change that. Like, so whatever he says, he's not playing. And if he does play, he's going to get hurt. So
Couple weeks back, they had a much better reason for it. They were 4-3, firmly in the wild card position, and now they're 4-5 and currently 13th in the AFC. So it doesn't even look like there'd be a reason for him to come back at all. So
exactly.
with that. So continuing on, I'll just cover a few of these games that happened in Week 10 here. If you want to get into any of them, let me know. Had the Bears beat the Panthers. Colts ended up beating the Patriots. The Texans, C.J. Stroud ended up beating Joe Burrow and the Bengals in a 30-27 game, which was very surprising to many people as the Texans were playing pretty hurt. The Steelers ended up beating the Packers in another kind of low-scoring game. Bucks beat the Titans. The Browns in a surprise upset against the Ravens. I don't understand how the Browns are winning games, scoring points, but they
Dude.
keep surprising people, and it's kind of
Okay.
weird. They did it with Deshaun Watson, but now he is out for the rest of the season as he has had a shoulder injury. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that game?
Okay. So I wrote this down because I had to go old school on this because I was watching this game and I'm like, I gotta write this down. This is ridiculous. So here, let me. So this is how the game started, right? Pick six for the
Mm-hmm.
Ravens. Cool, great, awesome. Things are looking good. Things are looking great. Then they're up by 24-9. That's great. Looking good. Looking great. 31-17. Sick. This is awesome. About to cover and make it look easy too. And then things started to go downhill from here.
16-0
Um,
run in the fourth quarter.
yeah, and the Browns are now the only team we can even say this millennia because it's never happened in the history of the NFL or of the past millennia. The Browns are the only team to trail for 59 minutes and 20 seconds in a game and win. They literally only led in the game for 40 seconds, and that was when they kicked that game winning field goal.
Mm-hmm.
There are 60 minutes in a game. You're telling me they trailed for 59 minutes and 20 seconds and they won? Like
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a surprise, and the Browns really have been doing this. They had upsets against the 49ers, now they have upsets against the Ravens, and we mentioned this last week a little bit on Saturday. Like, had confidence in the Ravens beating the Browns, but they have laid eggs and kind of had played to their competition when they kind of go against these lesser teams. And obviously, the Browns are 6-3 now, but the the Ravens had lost to the Colts and they had lost to the Steelers. So they had some ugly losses and stuff on top of their, great runs, especially against the NFC. But I mean, this was very surprising, and I did not expect this at all. So now the Browns only sit one game, basically half a game back, because they would have the tiebreak. Well, they would split at 1-1, so they're a full game back against the Ravens in the AFC South right now, or AFC North. But that was definitely surprising.
Yeah, but I
Additionally,
mean, even with that though, like if you were to tell me that okay, Deshaun Watson's going to be there for the rest of the season, then maybe sure he can get back to like 50% of what he was back at as the Houston Texan.
mhm,
But if you're going to have DTR running the offense out there, that's even worse
yeah,
than the situation that that the Jets are in, where they have Zach Wilson out there trying to patrol the offense. That being said,
mhm.
I I'm giving myself a rule to never ever ever believe in the Jets ever again to win anything in life, and at least not in my lifetime. I will never be betting on another Jets game from this point forward. If you see me betting on a Jets game, slap me across the face and then tell me why are you betting on a Jets game? And I will understand. I'll be like, "Oh, dude, you're right." Or, "Girl, you know what? You're right too." So, from this point forward, I will never be betting on the Jets.
And as Drew was alluding to, the Jets did lose to the Ravens in a 12-16 game.
The Raiders,
Zach,
that is.
the Raiders. Sorry, Raiders.
Mhm.
Zach Wilson went 23 of 39 for 263 yards and 1 interception. And again, we're not able to really move the ball down the field very often. The Raiders are now 2-0 since the basically cleaning of house that they had with the entire coaching staff and GM basically. So that was interesting to note. So now they're sitting at 5-5, and the Jets are sitting at 4-5. The last ones to close out, we had the Lions beating the Chargers in a shootout. We had the Cowboys destroying the Giants again, coming off a close loss they had against the Eagles the week
I
prior.
told you it wasn't enough, man.
That is
I
true.
told you.
That is true. I forgot that Daniel Jones wasn't starting, and it was still,
DeVito.
DeVito.
He
That was bad.
spending the night with his parents and stuff. Lives with his parents, I should say. Nothing wrong with living with their parents. We love people that live with their parents. But like you're an
Hope they
NFL
got some ice
quarterback,
packs or something, because they lit him up. It was
dude. For
bad.
real.
And last but certainly not least, we had the Broncos in a surprise upset. I don't even know if you can
That's
call it
right.
upset anymore, against the Bills, as they are able to beat the Bills 24-22. What were your thoughts on that game, Drew? And I mean, we both talked about it before the game started, or before the podcast started. Like, the Bills are now sitting at 5-5, and they're out of the playoff contention completely, entirely right now. Not even really close to a wild card spot. So, like, do you even feel like they could squeak into the playoffs at this point, or do you feel like the season's basically lost right now?
No, like you were saying, we were talking about this earlier, and their schedule right now is like from this point forward is a gauntlet. So
Yeah,
they were supposed to already have a bunch of their wins in pocket at this point in time, and then
yeah,
kind of play maybe not 50-50 football down the stretch, but I mean even winning 60% of those games or whatever would still allow them to be a deep playoff contender. But now, I mean, it's not even looking like they're going to make the playoffs, and Vegas also agrees with that too. Like it's plus 200 or so or longer for them to make the playoffs, which basically means that they have like less than a 30% chance of making the playoffs right now. So um it's not looking good for these guys. And I mean, just watching the game too, it it just makes no sense. I don't understand it because they're messing up all of my they're messing up part of my model in terms of
so
like
you're making me look bad.
well, I mean not only that, but like in turn because it was telling me to bet on the Bills, but I thankfully didn't listen to the model that time. But currently the Bills are third in EPA and they're first in offensive play success. Like what? So it I I don't know. I have no idea how they're well. I know how they're losing these games. Josh Allen isn't fully to blame, but he is definitely a large piece in that a cog in the wheel of their terrible play.
I think he's to
Um,
blame.
Not completely though. Like they
They
can't
scored
run the ball.
22 points.
Okay, yeah, but they also can't run the ball, and if you can't run the ball, then you can't pass the ball because then they just play
They
back
ran
on
for
everybody.
200 yards.
Well, that was after that they had taken out James Cook because he fumbled, and they were like, "Okay,
Right.
take him out." And then they were like, "Oh wait, actually, that's like our best running back. Let's
Legit. And
put
then
him back
Josh
in."
Allen threw a pick, then he lost a fumble, then he threw another pick. So I'm like,
Hmm.
bro.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like statistically speaking, other than his turnovers and stuff like that, I still think that he is playing better than what he normally has been playing um passing ability and making great throws. But along with those great throws, he's got a lot of Jameis in him this year, in the past couple of years too, to where he's making all these great throws and he's making all these plays, but then the turnovers are at the worst possible time. Um, and it's really, I don't know. I struggle to say that it's solely on him because he's been doing this for the past 2 years, right? And it's a lot of the offensive
Yeah.
scheme that they're running too. And I mean, you can't oversight the injuries on the defense as well, um, because every offense that's gone in there since Matt Milano got hurt has just been doing whatever they want, however they want to do it. Um,
I mean, like, given all of the injuries that they faced, though, I think that their defense has actually played decently because, after the going to the Dolphins game, they were able to hold the Dolphins 20 points. They held the Jacks 25, the Giants to 9, Patriots 29. That's the most points they've given up in the past 8 weeks. And then 18 for the Bills, or 18 for the Bucks, 24 for the Bengals, and then the Broncos scored 24 points. So, I mean, their defense is hurt and injured, but I think that they've been able to hold teams to a decent amount. I just don't think the Bills have really been able to score, which goes to what you have been talking about with Josh Allen, the turnovers that just being at very unopportune moments. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, in terms of like turnover worthy plays, he only has 6 this year, and I mean that's like one of the lowest rates. Or apologies, he has 10 this year, which is tied for third lowest this season. So like I don't know, like his turnover luck, I guess you can call it, has been very at inopportune times. And I guess sure, yeah, it is costing them games. Sal Palantonio, who he's uh, a sports writer, and he mainly follows the Philadelphia Eagles. And I said that really weird, Philadelphia Eagles. He talked about this thing that you want to make sure that you always boxes that you want to check, and it's called reps. And it's reliable. Are you efficient? And are you productive? And right now, he's not been very reliable. He hasn't been all that efficient. He's been kind of efficient, but not as efficient as we're accustomed to seeing. And he's not really producing um up to his full potential that we've been accustomed to over the past few years. And again, I think that is also a lot to do with scheme because you should be targeting Stephon Diggs more often than what they are. Even I don't care, like just like with Devontae Adams, I don't care if that man is double teamed, triple teamed, whatever.
he
He's always open.
said,
Like
hyper
he,
target.
yeah, and you scheme plays for your player to get open. Like you're telling me that like you can have Josh Dobbs go out there to a team he literally just learned their playbook last week, and Kevin O'Connell can scheme up plays where his defenders or his wide receivers are wide open, and defenders are looking silly. Like
Yeah.
how hard can it really be if like he again rocket scientist, but
It's
um
photographic memory.
yeah. So I don't know. I just think that I don't think it's all on him. Like because he ultimately is an elite quarterback, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough.
I
And
guess
then,
I've become a Josh Allen truther this year. Usually I'm the one bashing him. Now I'm the one trying to build him back up.
yeah, a lot of football fans and stuff like that definitely are bashing him on social media. Even, Trevon Diggs, who was commenting about Stephon, like, what he was before Stephon got here, right? And then kind of like showed the stats of how turnover prone Josh Allen was in his efficiency was down, all that kind of stuff. So it is very interesting. As we mentioned, the Bills do have a very tough gauntlet to close out the season as they play the Jets this upcoming week, which they should be able to win. But then they play the Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, Patriots, who they've already lost to, and then the Dolphins, which is going to be a tough game for week 17 overall. So it is definitely going to have the need for the Bills to go on a little win streak here in order to squeak into the playoff as a wild card. So we'll have to wait and see with that. That's pretty much it for this last week, Drew. So if you want to get your power rankings list, if you want to go first.
Yep. So again, I'm going a little old school here today.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, I have the 49ers. I think that I have them up there because when they're healthy, they are the most dominant and complete team. It's just a matter of, like we always said, when they're healthy. And we saw that last week. That's why I had them as one of my plays, was that they had a full complement of their receivers and also a healthy offensive line as well. And I mean, they're also going against, I think, overrated Jacksonville team who hasn't really played all that much competition. Granted, sure, yeah, they beat Kansas City, whatever, woohoo. But other than that, like I don't think that they're exactly flugazy.
They lost. They lost to Kansas City.
I thought they beat Kansas City.
No, they lost like 17-9.
Huh. Interesting. Regardless, they that's what it was. People were saying that their defense was able to hold Kansas City, and because people were talking about how elite their defense was and everything, and Brock Purdy made it look purdy out there when he was throwing the ball all over the place to wide open receivers. And so, yep, that's my number one team. Number two, it's still going to be Baltimore. I think it was just a huge look ahead spot for, or letdown spot for the Ravens there, even though it's a divisional game, so you don't really consider it a letdown spot or a look ahead spot. But they were looking ahead to a more comparable opponent, which they thought was more comparable opponent, in the Bengals, who they're playing this week, who they shall beat, might I add. Yeah, so I think it was just a letdown spot for them right there. And if you have Lamar Jackson not fiddling around with the football, throwing it off of people's helmets, throwing pick sixes and interceptions and stuff, then, I mean, they win that game. Like, easy as that. Number three, I have Kansas City. I mean, there's not really much explanation needed. It's Kansas City that every year that they've been that every year that they've had Patrick Mahomes as a starter, they've been successful. They've made it to the AFC Championship, and it's mainly just a matter of staying healthy and having the right players healthy at the right time and building that chemistry. Because the way Patrick Mahomes operates, he throws a lot of no-look passes, throws a lot of has a lot of unplanned plays and a lot of scramble drill plays as well, to where he's just roaming around in the pocket and then rolling out to the right, and then all of a sudden he just throws it 40 yards down the field to somebody that just like improvised on the route and then toe drag, swag, catch. So number 3, 4, I can count, is going to be Philly. So Philly scares me because they do this thing. I don't know why they never play good against the Commanders, and I always hold on to those games because they just linger in the back of my head. Then they go against like another team, and they're supposed to have this elite defense, and they don't really stop anybody, but then they just score at will, and AJ Brown just can't be stopped. So, and I think that going into the bye, like they did last week, is going to be really beneficial for them to get healthy. Jalen Hurts was banged up with a few different injuries and stuff, and even on certain plays, he was visibly limping back to the huddle before the next snap. So I think that coming into this next game against Kansas City is going to be a real telltale sign of where the team's at. And I kind of lean KC, but it's scary as well. Last but not least, have a new addition to my top 5, the Lions. So I mean, was that Tony Romo on the call of that game where he was like, "Oh my god, just every play is just so beautiful. I just can't help it." Like, but to be honest, like the scheme that they're running out there, I'd be surprised if their OC doesn't get a head coaching offer at minimum. Um, but I do think that Jared Goff is a very underrated potential MVP candidate this year. Even though like everybody has like one bad game, and he had his one bad game against the Ravens. And I mean, if your one bad game is against the Ravens, and they're considered to be one of the best teams in the league, like it's understandable. You can get a pass for that, no pun intended. But currently, as the Pro Football Focus ratings go, he is the second highest rated quarterback, only below Tua. So, and that's only by 2 points. So, I think that
Goff's super underrated.
Yep, I think that he's definitely elevated his game. The Lions secondary has also played, I don't want to say over their skis, but they've definitely outperformed what a lot of people were thinking. And the combination of Jameer Gibbs and my RB1, David Montgomery, doing all that work back there, opening up wide open passes to Amon-Ra St. Brown. It just match made in heaven. And then you got the rookie tight end too, Laporta, like checking all the boxes. So
nice. Mm-hmm. Would you prefer? Because I know you like both of them. Would you prefer Montgomery or Gibbs at this point? Could you say my running back one, David Montgomery, which you've been on Gibbs all year?
Yeah, so like I was obviously very high on Jameer Gibbs coming into the season. I drafted him in 3 different leagues, 2 or 3 different leagues. But in the other leagues that I don't have Jameer Gibbs, I have David Montgomery. So I mean,
yep. And somebody gonna get this touchdown.
Exactly. I was like, he's saved my bacon multiple weeks. I think if you want like a baseline, then you go for David Montgomery. Like you know what he's gonna get. He's always gonna get like hella touches for no reason, and he's always gonna be somewhat productive too. And he was always pretty good when he was playing in Chicago too. Yeah. But it was just a matter of having a garbage offensive line and a garbage team. So
it plays a factor.
I mean, yeah, just a little bit. So like that doesn't help him at all. And then on top of that, they didn't use him as a pass catcher, which they don't now either. But him being the only option like on the ground in Chicago, and then throwing it to not Khalil Herbert, but Tariq Cohen out of the backfield instead of him. Like if you have a dominant running back, then use him as much as you can. Not 5'6" Tariq Cohen. Now I love our 5'6" folks, but just not as a running back that you use for more snaps than you do David Montgomery. And when you're losing more often than you're winning, you're not going to be running the ball as much. So then your best player is not even on the field. Make it make sense. But
this is true. Fair enough.
Digress.
Fair enough. I agree with your list. I have the same teams just in a little bit different order. My number one would be the Eagles still. They're one bad loss away from being 9-0. And
they're also like a few different, they're a few inches away from being like, I don't know, 7-2.
Hey, but they're not. They're 8-1.
Okay.
They're 8-1. That would still be my team. That's still probably going to be a homer pick just from my NFC picks, but I would still have them. They haven't looked pretty, and they haven't necessarily played the best competition throughout the season. The Dolphins and the Cowboys should probably be the best teams that they played so far. But as you mentioned, these next 3 weeks when they play against the Chiefs, as well as against the they already beat the Cowboys, but they play against the Chiefs and the Bills and the 49ers, so that'll tell a lot. But that would still be my number one team. I still think that their defense has not been that great this year, but offensively they've been good. They've been able to make these strong comebacks even when they have given up these big leads to teams like the Commanders, and when they need to get a stop, ultimately they've been able to most of the times. Number 2 would be the Ravens. They had the bad loss, as we mentioned, against the Browns. But other than that, they've been dominant, especially through the NFC. Lamar Jackson has looked good. He's talked about with his like, I'm sorry for your fantasy teams and all that kind of stuff, because even though they'll blow out these teams and everything like that, he'll have like 12 fantasy points. But they're just able to win games. The defense is playing very, very well. And I'm not worried about this loss to the Browns. I still think they're going to bounce back and still be a very strong contender in the AFC. Number 3, right behind them, I would have the Chiefs. I wanted to put the Chiefs ahead of the Ravens just because of, history. And I know that if I had to choose a game between them two and all the cards and chips were pushed to the table, I would choose Patrick Mahomes over Lamar Jackson. But I still have question marks about the Chiefs offense. Rashid Rice, again, has been stepping up more and more each week. But, Travis Kelce can't do it all for you. And even though their defense has been better and has been able to stop teams, sometimes they're not able to move the ball and they're not able to capitalize in the red zone, which is one of the main problems that they had against the Broncos, which was a game that they lost. So they would be my number 3. My number 4 would be the 49ers. I understand what you're saying. When everybody's healthy, I think they're the best team in the league. Yeah, number 4. Especially, based off of, they just came off with a 3-game win streak. I understand that they destroyed the Jags, but I'm kind of like you. I don't think the Jags are that great of a team. I think they're like, a solid playoff team, but I don't have any expectations for them going any further. Or maybe they get a win in the first round. But I think that it goes to show some of the question marks coming into the season that we had against about the 49ers. When you go on like a 6-0 run, that kind of eases a lot of the concerns that people had, but then, refuse to forget that they're probably the most injury prone team in the league, and they have some of the most injury prone star players, and George Kittle, who got hurt, Deebo Samuel, who got hurt. Obviously him and Trent Williams are back now, but there still are question marks about them. And even though Brock Purdy did turn it around against the Jags, he's been a little up and down this season. So I think I need to wait and see a couple more games now that everybody is back for me to just be like, okay, you went on this 3-game losing streak against some teams that I don't think are very good, and against the Browns, who I think are solid, and against the Vikings, like, who again I think are solid, but I don't think those are great teams. So those would be my concerns with the 49ers. And like you, I have the Lions at number 5. I think that they've had one bad loss, which was to the Ravens, and then they had the overtime loss to the Seahawks. Other than that, they've looked great. Their offense looks amazing, and their defense is much better than I think people thought it was going to be. And their secondary, as you mentioned, is playing better than I think a lot of people expected. So that would be my number 5. And I think that Jared Goff is probably one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league, especially in the NFC. And he's been able to take complete control of that offense, is one of the reasons why they want to continue to extend him this season. And then you have Jameer Gibbs, who's been coming on over the past 3 weeks when David Montgomery was out. So now that they're both healthy, you have a nice 1-2 punch out of the backfield with Amon-Ra, with Laporta, as you mentioned. So offensively, I think they're great, and their defense has been pretty solid. So that would be my number 5. So my only question to you is like,
I was gonna say one last little note on Jared Goff too is that he also has he's tied for the league's lead. That was really weird how I said that. He is tied for the most drop passes by his wide receivers too, with our good old buddy friend Captain Kirk Cousins. So he has 20 dropped passes by his wide receivers. So catch a few of those here and there. Maybe season looks a little bit different. Maybe they have like another win or two. Maybe not against the Ravens, but maybe against the Seahawks or something like that. So
true. So with the 49ers, you think, you have everybody's healthy, you have the bounce back win against the Jags, and you're just ready to deem them this number 1 just because they should be on paper?
Well, I mean, I always had them up there, like on my list. I never had them lower than I don't think I ever had them lower than 3 or something like that. But maybe not even lower than 2.
Even after going 0-3?
I had never wavered. I wavered a little bit.
Oh.
I was kind of concerned. I was like, oh shit, I was like, look away. But yeah, I mean, like we said, their main problem was injuries, and you saw what Deebo meant to that offense in terms of having the versatility of having a player that can do multiple things for you. And it really limited them only having Christian McCaffrey, and only George Kittle, but still.
And only Brandon Ayuk.
I mean, but I mean, when your offense is made around like those core players, and you have one of your core players out, then it makes it damn near impossible. Not only that, when you have big old Trent Williams out as well, who's a Hall of Fame left tackle, like that definitely impacts your offensive flow and how you're able to get enough time to throw. Because as we know, when Brock Purdy's under pressure, he doesn't necessarily do all that good. But when he when he has a clean pocket, I think has like the highest passer rating in the league right now. So
Well, that's what I'm saying too. Like I agree with you, but I also think that their versatility is their greatest weakness. The way that they use Debo out of the backfield and all these screen passes and things like that, they use him as literally a borderline running back, so he gets hurt a lot. Brandon Ayuk is a very physical player after the catch, and he's been hurt a lot with his shoulder injuries. So we already know how injury prone Christian McCaffrey's been, and we already know how George Kittle is the most physical tight end in the league, but he's also injury prone. So like at the beginning of the season, like that was my main reason for having the Seahawks finish higher than them in the division, also being a homer pick. But it was just the injury proneness of that team, and it didn't come to fruition in the first. Okay. And it didn't come into fruition in the first 6 games, so everybody kind of forgot about that. And I was in that same play. I was like, oh my gosh, Brock Purdy's looking amazing. You have to consider him as a borderline MVP candidate at this point. And then the injury bug is undefeated, and I don't know what it is about the 49ers, but it really likes 49ers. So I would have those concerns. And we've seen that Brock Purdy is not, especially when he doesn't have his full array of weapons, is not as non-turnover prone as we thought. So, well, that we'll have to wait and see with that. Anything else that you wanted to get into in the NFL?
Yeah, just real quick. I just wanted to highlight a few matchups that we had in Week 9 that we kind of skipped over. These are some very elite matchups. So we had Josh Dobbs against Taylor Heineke. We had Daniel Jones against Aiden O'Connell. Tyson. Wow, I can never say his name.
Badgett.
There we go. Badgett. I always want to say Baguette. It's not Baguette. Badgett against Derek Carr. Ugh, Derek Carr. Anyways, Will Levis.
It's my quarterback.
No, please, God, no. Will Levis against Kenny Pickett. Sam Howell against Mac Jones. So we just had some elite competition going in to Week 9 right there. Thank goodness a few of those quarterbacks are no longer. But we still do have an all-time high for the amount of quarterbacks that have played this season in terms of due to injury or just
up until this point. Yeah.
Yep.
Not to mention that, the Eagles just absolutely destroyed the Cowboys in Week 9, and Alex won his bet. So, yeah.
Whatever.
Also, that
season's not over yet. Division's not captured yet.
I told you, if you want to double down on it, just let me know.
Why would I do that?
Well, you sound so confident about it, so why not?
Oh, I mean, like I have confidence in my pick, but I don't. I'm not gonna double down on an underdog
Fair enough. So straight into call your shot, Drew. Do you have any matchups that you are fully confident in this weekend or week?
Yes, sir. I am looking at these here Baltimore Ravens. Looking in
Thursday night football.
Yeah, man. Hey, now that we're on a little bit earlier, I'm calling my Thursday night shots out here. All right. They were looking ahead for this matchup, which is why they had a letdown spot against the Browns. And I think that when you have Harbaugh going in there, getting prepared for a game at home, hostile environment for the Bengals, it's not going to end well for our boy Joey B. And you also have Higgins that's banged up again. You also have Hendricks on their defensive line that's banged up as well. He was writhing in pain. I didn't see on the injury report what he has going on, but from the way he was looking on the field there, didn't look like it was something that he was going to be playing on a short week. So add all that together, give me Baltimore Ravens -3.5. But you know me. I'm going money line. I ain't playing that game. I'm not playing that. That happened. See, that happened actually this past week with the Lions. They won by 3. We would have pushed on that, but instead we played the money line and ended up winning. So
yeah, and I tried to take the Seahawks for money line, but you convinced me not to and just take the spread.
Oh, dude, -280, whatever it was. Like, that's ridiculous. But
we could have done at least an alternative spread, not just the 6 points. But I digress. I'm not gonna lie to you. That game scares me. I'm gonna leave that alone.
That's fair.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Here, let me try and convince you here, Mr. Harris. So, so the Bengals are 1-23 straight up on the road and night games over the past 25 years. Okay. Does this check the box for that? I believe it is a night game. They are on the road. I don't think they're going to win this game. That's why I'm taking the money line.
For the Ravens.
Trends don't pay the rent.
Mm-hmm.
Say what?
Because you got the Ravens, right?
Exactly. I'm saying trends don't pay the rent, but they sure do tell a damn good story. All right. Along with that, the actually, I won't spare you guys. I'll tell you this anyways. So the Ravens also have a 34% passing advantage on the offensive line and a 14% running advantage on the defense or on the offensive line as well against Cincy, whereas Cincinnati has a -4 passing disadvantage when it comes to pass protection and a -15 run efficiency on the offensive line as well, going against Baltimore Ravens. So,
talking me into a little bit. And T. Higgins has already been ruled out for the game too, so that's a big piece for loss for them. Shout out Trent Irwin though.
Okay,
white boy.
The up and coming Adam Thielen. There you go.
Yep, you heard it here first. Fair enough. That'll be a very entertaining game. Nice to see finally getting some good Thursday night football games. After the disgustingness that we had the week prior with the Panthers and Bears. So, yeah, can't wait for that. My first call your shot game is going to be the Chargers over the Packers. The Chargers.
Wow.
Yeah. Chargers were coming off of a 2-game win streak when they ended up losing a shootout to the Lions. So I feel that they're going to be able to outscore the Green Bay Packers for like the points on the board, and the Green Bay Packers have not scored more than 20 points over the past 5 weeks. They've struggled to put points on the board. Their defense has been playing well, so they've been able to keep teams low. But overall, I think that the Chargers now, as healthy as they're going to get, obviously you have Mike Williams still out, but as healthy as they're going to get, they're finally including Austin Eckler into the game plan a lot more over the past couple weeks. And obviously the Justin Herbert Keenan Allen connection is always going to be elite. So that would be my pick over the Green Bay Packers, who were 1-4 over the past 5 games.
I mean, that's a fair enough point. I talk about games that scare me. It's asking Brandon Staley to cover a game on the road in Lambeau. And also, if you're not scared yet, 81% of the bets are on the Chargers. So that is one of the most public plays of the week. Proceed with caution, but hey, you do you. Do you want to go? Do you want to go money line on that one, or
we can go money line on this. Close enough. It's 3 points, so we can just go money line. I honestly think that they'll win running away, because I think that the Chargers are a solid offense. So I think they're just going to be able to score points. And after the first 2 weeks of the NFL season, Jordan Love looks like trash. So
true. One thing that might be interesting for that game is the line. I just thought about this now. The Chargers first quarter, or even first half, because the Packers are notoriously bad at scoring or doing anything productive on offense in the first half or first quarter. But I mean, interesting. We'll see how that plays out there for you, Mr. Harris. My next pick. Talk about a public play. I'm going to pick the Detroit Lions. So the line initially opened. I would say the line initially opened up as the Lions being a gigantic favorite against the Bears at a 10-point favorite, and then since then, Lions been bet down, which normally you don't want to bet against line movement. It's not a winning strategy.
Because Justin Fields returning.
Exactly. And so that being said, with Justin Fields returning, I like if it's like with Kyler Murray and ACL or whatever, you've had all this time to recover and build up your strength and everything like that. I'm not concerned about Kyler Murray when he came back, because he came back in a reasonable amount of time, unlike what Aaron Rodgers is trying to do, come back in an unreasonable amount of time. Anyways, when you have somebody that's coming off of a thumb injury, that's going to be a little bit different, especially if it's your throwing hand. One swipe at the ball, his strength might not be all the way back up to where it needs to be. And also, why are they trying to push him to come back so soon, even though he was technically medically cleared to play last week. So they are kind of waiting a little bit. I don't think that they're really playing for anything right now. So like just let him heal even more. But each their own. I'm picking the Lions. It's another one of those games I talked about last week where my model, if the game margin is between 4 and 5 in terms of amount of value that I have on a game, then it has been in the Goldilocks zone, about 80 to 85% is the amount that it's hit over the past 3 years for me. And that one of those games last week was the Dallas Cowboys. And yeah, I have no choice, and I'm legally obligated to abide by the rules of the model, especially when it's in between that range. So give me the Detroit Lions to beat the Chicago Bears.
I like that pick. That would have been my second pick too. Even with Justin Fields returning, still could be some rest incorporating them. Not sure how healthy he's actually going to look. And again, I think the Lions have looked great on offense. We'll see how Aiden Hutchinson, if he gives him any problems in the backfield or not. If I'm not going to choose that one, my second, I'm just going to do it. I don't care. Seahawks over Rams. We're going to get our get back. That's right. I don't care.
Dude.
I don't care if it's away. Matthew Stafford practiced in full today, so supposedly his thumb is pretty healed. So him and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua all are battling through little injuries and things like that, but they're all expected to play. But I don't care. I think we're going to get our get back, and it's just going to be a homer pick. So we eventually have to get this red zone thing figured out, man. It's been ridiculous, and end up barely squeaking out these wins against the Commanders and against the Browns, even against the Cardinals, things of that nature. So I think that eventually we have to get right. And I think this is a perfect opportunity going into a game so we can go into a little 2-0 lead, so our 2-0 win streak with our Commanders last week and then beating the Rams this week before we have to go through this gauntlet against the 49ers, Cowboys, and 49ers again, and then the Eagles. So not looking forward to the next month. So you may or may not hear me talking about the Seahawks very often. Coming up here soon, so this may be my last chance.
So you're getting it out while you can.
Yep.
I guess, man. My only thing is why is the line only 1 when we know how bad the Rams have been? We know
what beat us.
Well,
and they're at home.
Exactly. And also it should be like, if you're thinking about it logistically, I think the Seahawks should be a little bit more of a favorite if they're supposed to be this playoff contender and stuff, and the Rams are going nowhere fast. That's scary. 68% of the bets are on the Seahawks right now, and only 39% of the handle, which is making it a very heavy bet against the public play right there. And
take the Rams, man. Let's do a.
I didn't say I was going to take the Rams. Like, it's not just like, oh well, it's the line. That's the other thing too, is that the line has moved 2 points since they opened up the line there. And
in which direction?
Going towards the Rams. So it opened up at Seahawks -3, and now it's down to Seahawks -1. And if there's 68% of the bets on the Seahawks, but the line is moving towards the Rams, I'm like, ooh. I'm so tempted.
The Seahawks.
I just traded for Puka Nacua too in one of my other leagues.
Did you really? What did you trade for him?
I traded a bag of peanuts? Stephon Diggs. No, I traded Stephon Diggs.
Oh, wow.
For Puka and Derrick Henry.
Interesting. So, looking for them playoff matchups.
I don't want to have to rely on Deontay Foreman for any kind of anything, especially not success on my offense, even though he's given me great production
touchdown or
over the past few weeks. Yeah. I don't want to have to rely on them getting touchdowns. So I got Derrick Henry, and their playoff schedule, or even their upcoming schedule, is looking mighty fine. And I do believe that they being the Titans are going to have some plus matchups in terms of they're going to be ahead in the game and they'll be able to run the ball. the way they like to. So
fair enough. Anything else that you wanted to get into NFL wise before we hop into the NBA?
I am so tempted by the Broncos again this week.
Who they play again? Don't they play
Vikings.
Yeah, they play the Vikings. Hey man, I'll bet the Vikings. I'll bet you. We don't even have to do a people vet. It could just be us. Because in Joshua Dobbs we trust. And we getting Jay Jettis back this week probably. Yep.
Is he coming back this week?
That's the news on the street.
Oh man. I can't do it. I can't get there. I cannot.
But in fairness to the Broncos, they have looked much improved over the past few weeks. And, things are actually looking a lot better. Russell Wilson's looking much more like his old self. And in fairness, like throughout the whole season, he's actually played very well. Like underrated, I guess you could say. They're actually getting the run game going with Javonte Williams. I don't know what it is about Courtland Sutton, but he's been a red zone machine this year. And he's like 8 touchdowns. I think he's tied for the record among receivers currently. So Broncos are looking up.
Mm-hmm.
And the defense has actually looked much improved compared to the first few games this season.
Mm-hmm. Last one that I want to give out is going to be the Dolphins coming off the bye, playing against the Raiders. Now, another massive spread here, minus 13.5.
I'm a Raiders fan now, man. That's rude. Okay.
You ever seen a grown man cry? I like after this game, I think that they're gonna come back down from the heavens of people just blowing smoke up their stuff, and like I don't understand how they have 5 wins. How do they have 5 wins? Yes, well, it is so gross. Especially the Dolphins have 6 wins. Like, are those comparable teams, Alex?
I mean, they beat the Jets, the Giants, the Packers, the Patriots, and the Broncos.
My point exactly. Dolphins by 1 million. Lock it up.
Dolphins by 1 million. Lock it up. Yep. Hey, man, these are the new and improved Raiders. This ain't,
okay,
your grandpa's Raiders, all right? Actually, no, these ain't your
I was going to say, if it was my grandpa's Raiders,
let's say these aren't your older brother's Raiders, okay? These are the new and improved Raiders, okay? Fair enough. Yes. Fair enough. I'm not going to take it, but I'm not going to be surprised if the Dolphins stop.
You should take the Raiders.
I want to, but I'm not going to. You should take the Broncos.
I'm good. I'll pass.
Your favorites.
So?
What do you mean so?
No.
You're 4-5 and you're favored against a 6-4 team that's like a 5-game winning streak.
I'm good. Okay. One question for you. Are you doing anything with this Steelers-Browns game with the total being at 33?
I don't understand that. That's so bad. 33. 16 and a half points. The Browns have been able to put points on the board. Even when it's been Deshaun Watson, when it's been PJ Walker, or when it's been the quarterback's name, DCR, or whatever his name is.
DTR, yeah.
DTR. That's bad. No, thank you. No anything. Knowing you probably choose like, yeah, I'm just gonna alternative spread 30 points. Screw it. No,
okay. No. Like when it comes to the Steelers, if Deshaun Watson wasn't hurt, I might have gone with them, but I don't like the Steelers make no sense. They have a negative point, not point differential. That'd be impossible. They have a negative. Actually, do they?
I think
they do. They do actually. Yeah, they do have a negative point differential. They have 6 wins. They have a negative yardage differential as well, and it's so annoying. Like I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know anymore, Alex. I want to bet against them. I can't bet against them.
Getting away with it.
It just makes no sense. You know what I mean?
You can't keep getting away with it.
Could you imagine? Like if I would have told you, like coming into the season, that 10 weeks into the season, that the Pittsburgh Steelers and Cleveland Browns would both be 6-3, and the Buffalo Bills would be 5-5 outside the playoffs. Like,
I'd say that you need to get drug tested if you told me that.
Legit on that meth,
No, exactly. One of my patients coming in to me, man.
That's crazy. They're both 6-3. That is insane. And Cleveland's still the favorite with Deshaun Watson out. That will make no sense.
Exactly. I'm so tempted. They're just hanging it out there for me. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not doing it. Nope. We're sticking with our plays that we have already.
Question.
And,
just a random question. Listen.
Yeah.
If your life depended on it and you needed the offensive team to score 1 touchdown, would you take the Steelers offense or the Jets offense?
Where am I starting at?
Don't matter. Opposing 20. So you need a full 80-yard drive. You need a touchdown.
The Steelers or the Browns, you said?
Steelers or the Jets.
Oh, the Jets? Oh.
So you want Zach Wilson or Kenny Pickett?
Oh God, I got to go with Kenny Pickett. I've seen their offense actually look decent.
Fair enough. This is true.
I've only seen like chunk plays out of.
Yeah, I've only seen a couple slant touchdowns, the
Jets.
Screen plays.
I like. Don't get me wrong. Like Matt Canada's or whatever his name is, Canada's scheme is one of the worst I've seen in the league.
Canada Dry.
Exactly. But at the same time, they have a lot of talent around them that can actually pick up the slack. Yeah, but their quarterback is just it is literally just the armpit of New York.
Yeah, he's the number 2 pick, man.
He could have been number 1 overall pick, and I still, God, I don't know. Like I said, next time you hear me saying anything good about the Jets, slap me across the face. I'm not gonna do that. I was gonna bet against them out of spite, but that's the losing method. But it is tempting. Anyways, before I go down too many rabbit holes there, I think that we'll just call it good for now.
Fair enough. That'll wrap it up for the NFL.
I think that's pretty much it. Just making sure that you're liking, subscribing. Make sure you download the podcast as well. Share it to all your friends, family, and even your neighbor too, if you like them. If you don't like them, you can still share it to them. Yeah, them, they, them, you know. So
we'll see you next Wednesday.
Peace.